Welcome back, Bears fans, to another episode of the Bears Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Will DeWitt, and it's time to finish our Week 13 preview and go through my Bears-49ers matchups to watch and keys to victory. And let's just not waste any time. We've already gone through a few portions of this preview, so let's just dive right into my 5 critical matchups. And the first one's going to be Prince Amukamara versus Marquise Goodwin. Even though Amukamara has been pretty overall solid, I would say, in his coverage this season, he's only allowed 16 catches on 26 targets. This is a matchup that makes me sweat, largely due to the Goodwin's speed and his ability to make big plays. In fact, over a third of Goodwin's yardage has come on the offense's left sideline, which is right on Amukamara's side. Amukamara, he's only allowing a throw his way about every 19 cover snaps, which is the third best mark in the NFL. But with Goodwin's elite speed, he doesn't need a ton of touches to make an impact. In fact, he's only had 7 catches over his last 3 games, but with those 7 catches, he has put up 229 yards off those limited receptions. Goodwin, he also leads the team in targets, so I just expect the 49ers to throw his way early and often. What worries me in this matchup is not just those big plays, though, because there's also that potential for some of those untimely drive-extending penalties, because since the bye week, Prince Amukamara, he's been called for 4 penalties for 73 yards, and half of which have come on third down. I mean, we've seen it. We've talked about it ever since the bye. But Goodwin's impact is going to depend strictly on Amukamara's ability to cleanly cover him. It's going to be a tall task, especially without Adrian Amos' help over the top. But if the past few weeks are any indication, Amukamara, he's going to be in line to make one of those either costly mistakes or maybe even give up one of those game-altering catches. So unfortunately, due to Goodwin's speed, I think it's just going to be, and of course Jimmy Garoppolo playing quarterback, I think it's just going to be a little bit of too much for Amukamara to handle. So I'm going to give Goodwin the edge here. Moving on to my second matchup, I have Jordan Howard versus Reuben Foster. Because even though Foster, he hasn't played much this season because he's been pretty beaten up. He's been injured. But when he has played, he's been playing really well. Just how well? Well, Foster, he was named the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Month for November. He had only 6 tackles last week against Seattle, but in the 2 weeks prior, he led the 49ers in tackles with 24, and he's arguably already their best defender on the field. Jordan Howard, on the other hand, as we know, he's coming off that probably worst performance of his season and career, largely due to the offensive line just being severely overmatched by the Eagles' front seven. Looking at the matchups up front, I think the Bears' offensive line should have a much better job generating push and creating running lanes, but that's only going to lead to some one-on-one matchups between Howard and Foster. And even though Foster has been great in blowing up runs, he's had issues securing tackles at times, and he has 4 missed tackles so far this season. So just kind of like every week with Jordan Howard versus the linebacker, it seems like it's a common theme this season. He doesn't need to win this matchup on each and every down, but rather he just needs to find a way to fight through contact, which he's one of the best in the NFL doing it. He's one of the fastest backs for his size, and when these two people collide, Jordan Howard, he needs to find a way to always fall forward, gain that additional yardage here and there, and if you can just bust out a big gain or two, Howard easily wins that matchup no matter how many tackles Foster can put up. So for me, I'm going to give the edge here to Jordan Howard. Moving on to the third matchup, I have Akeem Hicks versus Brandon Fusco. Beaten and battered Hicks, he's had a tough past couple of weeks. He doesn't have a sack since the bye. Fusco, he isn't the biggest or strongest guard in the league. He's given up the 10th most pressures with 23, but only 2 sacks so far this season. Fusco's job extends past protecting Garoppolo, though, because Hicks, he's one of the league's best interior run defenders, right? With his combination of speed, his strength, he can make sure that if Fusco can't create any interior run push, this 49ers offense is really going to have a hard time moving the ball. Hicks, he does have 5 sacks and 2 fumbles recoveries at home this season. And in last year's matchup against the 49ers, he won the NFC Defensive Player of the Week honors because he had 2 sacks and a forced fumble or 2, I think. I forgot exactly the numbers there. But here's a repeat performance for number 96. I think Akeem Hicks, now a little bit more healthy, is going to go out there and have himself a day. So for me, Akeem Hicks has the edge here in that third matchup. Entering the fourth matchup, I have Danny Trevathan versus Carlos Hyde, and I've been waiting to say these words for a month now, but just welcome back Danny Trevathan. I don't need to rehash all the ways that the Bears defense has suffered in his absence. We've talked about it a ton on the podcast, and heck, you have eyes. You've watched this defense take steps in the wrong direction without him out there. Chicago's given up 150 rushing yards twice in their last 3 games, and you have to expect Trevathan wants to be that captain to right the ship. In fact, I'd go out and even say that his return is the biggest key for the Bears to slow down Carlos Hyde. He's been pretty solid, Hyde, on both on the ground and through the air. His 49 receptions, they lead the team, and the 49ers, they try to get the ball in his hands in a variety of ways. And I think this is exactly where Danny Trevathan's value is going to come in, because that linebacker, he's going to be tasked with tracking Hyde down every time he takes a handoff or catches the ball quickly in the flat. And of course, not playing the game in nearly a month, I think the Bears are going to, of course, they took their time to make sure he's 100% before he returns. So I think he's going to be able to provide that much needed spark for this defense. And this is a matchup that I expect Trevathan to win. But if he does fail, so will this Bears defense. For me, I'm going to give this slight edge here to Danny Trevathan. Hopefully he's healthy enough to make it come true. And moving on to my fifth and final matchup, this is a big one in the trenches for the Bears offense. I have Kyle Long versus DeForest Buckner. And just like Hicks, Kyle Long, he's been dealing with his fair share of injuries this season, even more so than Hicks. And that has led to a dip in his effectiveness. Long, he's given up 2 sacks, 1 hit, and 8 hurries this year in his limited action. And he has a tough matchups because he's going to be tasked with slowing down the 49ers' leading pass rusher in Buckner. Buckner, he's been a force all season. He has 2 sacks, 16 hits, and 21 hurries. Those 2 sacks, you hear 2 sacks like, okay, that's not too bad, right? That's not bothersome. But Buckner, he's found himself in opponents' backfields more times than not, and he's been really able to affect the offense's rhythm. And just due to his size, he's 6'7", 300 pounds. He can really beat blockers in multiple ways, and he just has some sheer strength that is just really uncanny. Buckner, he can set edges, he can gain penetration in the backfield and simply just wreak havoc. I expect the Bears to kind of help Long, either that be Cody Whitehair or even maybe even Bobby Massey at times, depending on where Buckner's lining up in this matchup. And honestly, as well, if Bradley Sowell, if he's playing left guard, I can see Buckner flipping the side of the ball and go up against him because he can take advantage of the vast talent differential between Long and Sowell. And honestly, that's good. That's scary if he does. But last year, this would have been a push between Kyle Long and DeForest Buckner. But with Long's injuries, that club on his hand, not being able to use his hands as effectively as he'd like, and Buckner's, he's on that hot streak so far this season. So unfortunately, this matchup is not leaning in Chicago's favor, and I'm going to have to give this edge here to DeForest Buckner. But that's it for my 5 matchups. Let's go ahead and just jump right into my 3 keys to victory. The first one, it's a given. Establish the run. And as much as we've been harping on the Bears for running the ball on first down, Nick said it in our last podcast, and he's absolutely right. The Bears need to find a way to run effectively on first down this game because the 49ers, they possess the second worst first down rush defense. They've given up about 4 yards per carry and over 800 yards on the ground on first downs this season. So the Bears should have no issue running the ball on first down. And if they do, that's just another cause for concern here in Chicago. But Jordan Howard, he scored 3 touchdowns against the 49ers a year ago. Again, coming off probably the worst game of his career. Actually, it is the worst game of his career. I expect him to have a rebound performance, kind of like he did from the Tampa Bay game to the Pittsburgh Steelers game. So for me, it's just going to be a big key for the Bears able to establish a run, take the pressure off Trubisky. Now, of course, we hope the pressure's off of him each and every week, but it's just going to be key to establish a run, set the tempo, win some time of possession, and of course give that Bears defense a much needed break, and of course extend some drives. And moving on, I'm going to flip the script here, and as much as we want to get off the bus running, we also need to stop Carlos Hyde. That's the second key, because he is the most important and productive piece of that 49ers offense. I anticipate Jimmy Garoppolo using him heavily, really putting, relying on him to be that security blanket down the checkdowns, especially because of the poor interior offensive line for the 49ers. He wants to get the ball out of his hands in a hurry, and that's kind of where Hyde comes in. I've already talked about how Danny Trevathan is going to be a big key in stopping Carlos Hyde. But if the Bears can actually stop the running back, that's going to put the pressure on Garoppolo to make plays with his limited weapons on the outside. And hopefully that goes right into the Bears' favor, right where we want him to be, have some dry stalls, and give this Bears offense some extra possessions. So that's going to be my second key. And moving on to my third and final key, it's actually going to be third down success. The Bears are 5th worst on third down over the past 3 weeks. I mean, we've noticed, right, guys? They've only been able to convert on 34% of their third downs over the past 3 games. And the 49ers, in the same exact time span on defense, they have the 3rd worst third down defense. They're allowing opponents to almost convert on 50%. It's at 45%. So for the Bears, if they can find a way to get around that average, 45%, I'd even take 40 at this point, getting third downs, extending drives, not stalling out, not punting, on the majority of your drives. It's going to go a long way for the Bears winning, because obviously third down success leads to red zone success, leads to points on the board. So for me, the Bears must find a way to succeed on third down, going up against a defense that struggled over on third down. So hopefully the Bears can find a way to get it done. But honestly, that's going to do it for this episode. Short, sweet, to the point. I hope you have yourself a great weekend between now and kickoff, whether it be with friends, family, by yourself. If you have to work, wherever you're doing right now in the world, I just hope you're having a good time. And we were going to talk to you as soon as the final whistle blows on Sunday. But until then, take care and bear down, Chicago.